All right, guys, back with you here on Tuesday, July 17th. And as we are doing traditional assets today, next up by the polling that we do of our members is Netflix. Now, Netflix is interesting today. We've just had the earnings report that was a disappointment in terms of subscriber growth. Oh, there's plenty of content for you to dig into if you're interested in more of the fundamental story here. We're looking at it technically. So not a dramatic amount of change, although we will get into this the hard right edge here in a sec. Now, just reviewing here because we did an analysis of Netflix. I don't know, two weeks ago, something like that. But we let the members choose what gets analyzed, and with that reaction that we're seeing today from the earnings, I think it's understandable why people are interested in what it looks like technically. Now, let me just point out a couple of things here. So here, all right, so here's Netflix, the parabolic boom. Anybody does that remind you of anything? Like maybe Bitcoin? So there it is with that's a 3-day chart. Now, just to review, if those of you that did not see that last video I did a couple of weeks ago, when you see this kind of parabolic move here, it can be really advantageous to go to log scale, where we get the compression of the higher numbers. So that just opens up the count here so you can see it a little more easily. So, you know, from our absolute low down here, it looks pretty hard to miss this as a 3-4, and then we're in the extension in the 5th. Well, so let me go down to a daily here and show you as we sit here dealing with that. So we got to go back to auto. Now, if I take it out of log scale, you can see it's just a little trickier to try and open it up. So in log scale, we can open this up and get a better view of what the separation looks like. So we're on the assumption that I've got this labeled correctly, and I think that's reasonably high probability at this point as we sit up here, that this is my 4 low. I can get a 1, 2. Now take note here, we do get multiple subdivisions here. So from that 1, 2, I get my 3, 4, and then I'm now in an extension in my 5th. So I'm in an extension of the 5th of the 5th. All right, so from my 4 here in white, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going up. I'm searching for the 5th. Within this 5th in white, I get a 1, 2, but then I go again 1, 2. This completes my impulse here at 3, so 1, 2 in yellow. 3, I come down for my 4, and now we're in the 5th of the 5th of the 5th. So what does that mean for us? Well, again, it's not that I'm teeing up to call the top in Netflix. That would be a fool's errand, right? So I'm not one to try and pick tops. But if we do get a reaction here, there will be some trading available. Now, so first, let's get down to this hard right edge. So let me open this up here. All right, so here's that last 3. This is, I think, where we left it here. It was unclear. I think we left it right here. It was about when we did, if I recall, I could be wrong here, but I think we were right in this zone here where we weren't sure if this was A and we were going B, and there was some possibility that we were, as I recall from last time we looked at it, I think we were right about here, and we had the possibility that we were going down here, so that we had A, B was going in, we'd come down for the C to give me the 4 down here, right, where more typically you'd find it, and then looking for the 5. Well, market's too strong, so we don't get that. So this shallow little ABC, this 4, ends up being our pivot here. So if I pull this back here. All right, so here's my 2 low to that degree. So from that degree, now remember I'm in log scale, so it's going to look a little squirrely. So if I go up here to my 3 high, well, we're right at the 38. So pretty much where you could anticipate looking for it, although I think we were right here, and it looked like we might have one more push down. But this ends up being our 4, so then we go 1, 2. All right, so we know we're in the 5th, and we get a nice 1, 2. So let's look at that. Now here, I think I can take it out of log scale. Yeah, it won't matter much. Okay, from that 4, well, let's check it out. So we go in from that 4, we go into a 1. Right now, we get a couple of. When do we get there from? Oh, it's a couple of dollars, if that, barely that. We get just breaking through the 65. Now, we do know, of course, that a 2 can be anywhere from the 50 to the 786. So it doesn't violate any rule set for us as Elliott traders. Then we get this big push up for this 3. Now, here it would look like we've got an ABC. So this is kind of what we were looking at before. So it looks like I've got an A, a B, and then a C has just gone in here. Now, let's take note of a couple of things here. All right, so there's my candidate for my 4th. So with an A, B, C into the B, and we've come down here. Now, well, so first thing to note, all right, first is, do we overlap the 1? Are we finishing with a diagonal? And we do not. So now looking at this as a 1, 2, of course, I'm going to look for a relationship between the length of the 3rd and the 4. So if I bring that in right on it, all right, so what do we do? This should not shock anyone here. So this is a common thing that we see, right? So the market opens down here. So we open right here. We gap down. Now we know, right? Hopefully you know the markets abhor gaps, right? It's like a vacuum. They want to fill it. So gaps, I think there's only one that's been unfilled over the history of as long as people have been charting. But as we look here, this gap is dying to be filled. So we get the open lower off of the negative earnings news or the subscriber growth news. And then what does the market love more than anything? The absolute crack to the market is Fed speak talking about easy rates. So the crack gets distributed. You see what happened to the stock market, and everything is just now, it's like party on. So we've got 1, 2, 3. We come down for the 4 would imply that there's a high probability that we're going up to catch a 5 up here of some degree. Now, again, I'm not so arrogant to propose to you that I'm going to tell you where the top in Netflix is. This could be it right here at 450. What are we calling that? We call it 454. That could be it. It's certainly from the Elliott count that certainly plays. That's a reasonable target up here. We could do a couple other things to look for any additional confluence. Well, in this 5th, can I get any help from looking at my wave relationships? Well, I'm trading off of this pivot low here. So I've got a 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking for any kind of wave relationship up here for my 5th. So if I take the length of my 1, commonly done, looking for some relationship, if I can get that right on there. All right, now I'm going to project it from my 4. Well, we're already to and through the 2, 6, 1, 8, so that's not helping me much. Now I could add 3, 6, 1, 8, 4, 6, 1, 8, 5, 6, 1, 8, but when I get beyond that degree, I'll go to the other degrees here. So now I'll do it this way. So since we so far have not overlapped, I'm going to look for this same thing. I'm going to look for the length of my 1 wave here. Get it right on there. There's my 1 projected from this proposed 4. Well, here now it's kind of interesting. So here I get a little confluence. I've got my 1618 and my negative 23.6 lining up right on top of each other. So I will do this. So I will put a hot box up here and say, well, something likely, I'm likely to get a reaction here. Now, is it the absolute top? Well, we shall see, right? There's no way to know, but it certainly could be. But we phrase it that way. Now, so that if that were the case, we're talking about a retracement that would be substantial, right? As we sit here at, what do we hear? Let's call it 454. If we're going to look for a wave 2, if this is completing the entire 5-wave structure, well, we're looking for a 50% retracement, which would put us down in the mid to high 2s, right? So looking for something like that. So 225, that's a long way down. But if you put it in the context, so it distorts right here. So with 454, 225. Let's put a box there. So let's call it somewhere in this range down here. That's the kind of retracement we'd be looking for, and we'd be anticipating, of course, with a great degree of subdivision, we'd be looking for something like that to come down and complete that correction, if this is going to be our pivot. Does that seem likely that we could drop off that? Well, one thing I've learned in the markets in many years of doing this is that very little surprises me anymore, and anything is possible. So as soon as you think, oh, no way is Netflix going down that far, take a little mental note, write it down, put it somewhere, and say, on this date, I said there's no possible way that Netflix could be going that low. And just keep it somewhere, stash it. you might surprise yourself. So again, I'm not calling the top here, and I'm not saying we're going there. I'm saying that technically, from an Elliott perspective, that's not an unreasonable scenario here. Now, what would cause that? Who knows? But there it is, right? So these patterns do repeat for a reason. Now, again, I'm not making that prediction, but I'm telling you that don't let that surprise you if that were to happen. So with all of that said here, so here's our good pivot here. This is very technical, no surprise here. We're in the fifth, likely to close the gap, and there's likely to be a push up to another high, to another all-time high. This is a pivot up here, this 454 area, to definitely be paying attention. So if you caught the pullback here on the 618, for whatever reason, that's an entry here at 342 with a target of 454. A nice looking trade. All right. If you're in it, good for you. If you're not, well, what's the way? I would not be chasing it. If this is going to go up here, well, we're looking for something like this. We're looking for it to do it this way. Plenty of opportunity to get there. Trading the retracements if and when they come, and they are likely to come, right? So we get up here, we fill the gap, look for the next 50. That's the trade. Not chasing it here. Right? If you didn't catch this, well, now you're sitting and waiting. Right? Let this come down for a 2. You know where your exit is under this pivot, so you can take the 2, looking for that push. Well, you're trying to catch the 3rd or the 5th of the 5th, right? And maybe you get a little pullback here for the 4, and you get one more kicker up for the 5. All right, guys, that'll do it for today. Interesting day, no doubt. We got a lot of boom going on, both in the equity markets as well as in crypto. All right, never a dull moment. All right, guys, that's it for now.